The history of U.S.-Israel relations usually begins with the contemporary strategic interests and the political establishment in Washington. The record shows that starting in the late 1800s, an organized movement began outmaneuvering American diplomatic resistance, setting the stage for a superpower's entanglement decades before the modern state was even established. This movement, known as political Zionism, coalesced in 1897. A European journalist named Theodor Herzl organized the First Zionist Congress in Switzerland with one objective: creating a sovereign Jewish state. That meeting produced the World Zionist Organization. It was an international body that expanded from representing 117 groups in its first year to over 900 groups by its second. From its inception, this was a highly coordinated political apparatus looking for a territory to claim. Early Zionists did not immediately focus on the Middle East. At different points, they considered establishing their state in Argentina, Uganda, the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, or even Texas. When they eventually settled on Palestine, they faced a demographic reality. The land was already home to a population that was 96% Muslim and Christian, a native population that owned 99% of the land. Two rabbis sent from Vienna to explore the region recognized this obstacle immediately. They wrote back to the movement with a warning: "The bride is beautiful, but she is married to another man." Despite this, the movement's leadership documented a strategy to displace the native majority, planning to push them out through financial pressure or, where necessary, direct force. Accomplishing this required the backing of a major power. Max Nordau, a co-founder of the movement, identified the strategic priority clearly, writing that Zionism's only hope is the Jews of America. Securing a populated territory halfway across the world would require the financial and political weight of the United States. In the late 1800s, the movement faced a hurdle. The vast majority of Jewish Americans were not Zionists, and many actively opposed the idea of a separate state. To shift this consensus, activists launched an aggressive cultural campaign. Following the work of poet Emma Lazarus in the 1880s, the Federation of American Zionists formed in New York in 1898 to organize the diaspora. By 1923, the movement had captured the media landscape. Almost every Yiddish newspaper in New York, reaching over 500,000 families, was firmly aligned with the Zionist cause. This cultural shift created political leverage. In 1887, President Grover Cleveland appointed a Jewish ambassador to Turkey, the seat of the Ottoman Empire that then controlled Palestine. Because of the growing Zionist voting bloc, every president for the next 30 years followed this precedent, turning that specific ambassadorship into what historians call a quasi-Jewish domain. By dominating immigrant media and transforming the culture of the electorate, the movement built a singular issue voting bloc capable of influencing the presidency. Despite its success with the public, the movement hit a wall within the professional U.S. State Department. Diplomatic and military experts warned that backing a foreign entity's project would damage core U.S. interests. They viewed Zionism as a project that would use the American government for a goal that offered no benefit to the United States. In 1912, the Zionist Literary Society approached the Taft administration for an official endorsement. Secretary of State Philander Knox rejected them. Knox stated that the problems of Zionism involved matters primarily related to the interests of countries other than our own, setting a precedent for expert resistance that would last for decades. The movement had built public momentum, but the architects of American foreign policy refused to support their agenda. State Department experts were appointed officials who did not rely on votes or campaign donations. This made them immune to the movement's grassroots pressure. To overcome this, the movement bypassed the experts. They directed their lobbying apparatus towards Congress and presidential candidates, the elected officials holding power to override those experts. By targeting politicians dependent on votes, the movement pressured the White House to ignore its advisors. This strategy reached its peak by 1948. With nearly 1 million members in the U.S., a movement provided the political pressure necessary for Washington to override its own experts and provide the critical diplomatic recognition and support essential to the state's formation. Today's pro-Israel political lobby is the result of this deliberate, century-long strategy to outmaneuvering institutional resistance to capture the policy of a superpower. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Bookish Breakdown. If you found this deep dive into the hidden history of American diplomacy eye-opening, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on today's topic, and I will see you in the next video.